I would like to start by reading the remarks I started with yesterday as I presented my fifth report as a special rapporteur to the Third Committee of the General Assembly. In a year in which I was turned into a reluctant chronicler of genocide, I feel compelled to start by paying my respects to the victims and survivors of all genocides, past and present, including the Native Americans, like the Lenape people, who are the original stewards of the land on which this institution stands. Certainly, the ongoing struggle of Native Americans and indigenous peoples everywhere to regain and maintain their rights on their ancestral land, like the Palestinians, would be less challenging if institutions like this one, premised upon equality and freedom of all and self-determination for all, were actually committed to addressing and unraveling the colonial past, beginning by confronting the prevailing colonial amnesia that affects many of them. And as Italian Holocaust survivor Primo Levi reminds us, it is the amnesia of the past and the erasure of its victims that allows history to repeat itself. And why did I start by reading this again and again? It's because history is repeating itself. Yesterday, I presented my second report on genocide. Why so? Why do I insist in calling it genocide? Because it's so difficult to prove intent. Why don't you go with war crimes and crimes against humanity? Because it's genocide. Because if you go to a doctor and you have cancer and you are diagnosed with fever, you have a problem, a big problem, and it's the same with the people who's being genocided. Because it's not about a collection of war crimes and crimes against humanity that the Palestinians are experiencing. They have experienced through their entire life as a people war crimes and crimes against humanity. But nowadays, the situation is different. And it's very important that we understand what is genocide and why this is to be recognized as a genocide. Because in the same way as the international community has failed to protect the victims of genocide in the case of the Jewish people in Europe, and then the Bosnians in former Yugoslavia, and then the Tutsi in Rwanda. In the same way, we are failing the Palestinians. And I want to express all my respect and solidarity with the Palestinian people, because it's a torment to be here as a Palestinian and having to tell all of us about the genocide that their people are experiencing. Because a people is like a body. You chop one arm, you chop one limb, the entire body suffers, and this is what a people is. It's something organic. And the same thing is the relation between the people and the land. For indigenous people, the land is not the place where they live. The land is who they are. And this is why we need to understand the bigger design behind what's happening in Palestine today. On the 14th of October, when together with other special rapporteurs, we started to denounce, to raise the alarm that what Israel had started to do might be genocide, and there was a serious risk of genocide. And then as of November, 30 of us have said a genocide is unfolding. I also said on the 14th of October, under the fog of war, Israel accelerates the forced displacement of the Palestinians. And I do say that out of the scholarship that I've produced, because the way I know the question of Palestine is through the forced displacement of its people, since even before the State of Israel was created. Palestinians have been kicked out of their land amid the destruction of their villages and everything they had from 1947-49 and in 1967, and it continues. And what's happening today, it's much more severe because of the technology, because of the weaponry. but also because of the impunity that has been granted to the State of Israel over 76 years. The hubris that has led Israel to attack not just the Palestinian people or the Lebanese, and to the Lebanese also goes my solidarity in this moment, but the United Nations. This year has also marked an attack against the United Nations physically, symbolically. In terms of functions, Israel has damaged or in any way bombed and targeted and hit 70% of UNRWA infrastructure in Gaza. It has launched a campaign, a smear campaign against UNRWA, which intensified a pattern that was already established. And it has killed 230 UN staff members, colleagues of many of those who work in this institution. And it has targeted the humanitarian capacity of UNRWA. And it has even targeted UN peacekeepers. And it has targeted the UN Secretary General and independent experts. And its very illustrious assembly. No one has been spared, not just among the Palestinians and the Lebanese, even in the United Nations. And it's because of that, on top of the genocide and on top of the 57 years of unlawful occupation, that I say it's time to consider suspending the credential of Israel as a member state. I understand the sensitivity, because none of you has really clean hands when it comes to human rights. That's okay. But no one else has maintained an unlawful occupation violating decades of UN Security Council, General Assembly, Human Rights Council, International Court of Justice, decision and resolutions, as Israel has done. Enough. And the last point, genocide. While this is genocide, genocide is a very insidious crime. It's a process, it's not an act. And there is a significant jurisprudence, but still incipient jurisprudence, thankfully. And the critical element to determine genocide is the intent behind acts of killing and infliction harm and creating conditions of life leading to the destruction of a group as such. There is the intent. And the discussion I hear, including from scholars, well, it's difficult to prove the intent. The intent is not a motive. It's a different thing. Its intent is the determination to destroy through criminal acts. Motives can vary. One can commit genocide because of, or can develop the will, the determination to commit genocide to stay in power, or to liberate the hostages, or to commit other crimes. But the moment there is the determination to destroy, then the intent of genocide is formed, and you don't even need to have genocide unfolding to intervene. We have already failed the Palestinians. Genocide has already been committed. But we need to, first of all, intervene, stop and punish the perpetrators, and then to stop it because it's expanding to the West Bank and East Jerusalem. No Palestinians is safe under Israeli rule. And the other element, and with this I will conclude, what is critical is the responsibility of the state. We cannot apply the same threshold for alleged perpetrators, so criminal responsibility, to a state. Otherwise, if we have to look at the paradox, preventing genocide would be an impossible mission if we have to wait until the guarantees that fair trial afford to alleged perpetrators are satisfied. We will never prevent genocide. But here, the responsibility of a state is evident, especially in a self-proclaimed rule of law system, which has checks and balances. It's not just the executive, it's the parliament and the judiciary. What have these bodies done in Israel to prevent genocide? Nothing. Not only, this is not the result of action of some members of the government. This is a collective responsibility of the State of Israel. And because of that, I say, this is the first settler colonial genocide to be litigated in human history. The cry for justice behind this case will resonate across the globe and will make a difference also for other indigenous people that have never seen a day of justice. Thank you very much.